lots of times when you should have saved your breath.
Lemmy Kilmister, better known simply as Lemmy, is a British rock musician and the legend of the heavy metal band Motorhead. He has gained worldwide success due to his character, appearance, easily recognizable image, as well as rough, husky vocals. He was once billed as one of the most recognizable voices in rock, and his unique manner of performance, she charmed more than one generation of listeners. Lemmy managed to develop his own style of bass playing, using a Rickenbacker bass which allowed him to create a depressed, distorted rhythmic rumble. Kilmister continued to make music until his death. Prostate cancer was diagnosed just a few days before the tragedy. For many years, the heavy metal star was famous for his hard, rebellious lifestyle according to one of the legends. One day a doctor told Lemmy that the blood is so tainted that an ordinary person would die after a transfusion. As Lemmy himself said, in his school years he listened to the Beatles records, which, in fact, inspired him to become a musician. Before becoming a heavy metal legend, Kilmister had worked with several rock bands, and was also a roadie for Jimi Hendrix and the Nice. He was a member of the band Hawkwind, and it is his vocals that sound on the hit Silver Machine. After being fired, Lemmy continued his ascent. So, in the mid-70s the world learned about Motorhead, whose main works were the hit single Ace of Spades and the album No Sleep Till Hammersmith, a live record that became the leader of the top charts. Ian Fraser Kilmister was born in 1945 in Stoke-on-Trent. Parents divorced and little Lemmy grew up with his mother and grandmother. When he was 10 years old, his mother married George L. Willis. Lemmy had a half-brother and sister, the children of Willis, whom Kilmister terribly did not like. By the way, he got his nickname Lemmy for that. As his school friends claimed, he constantly borrowed money from them to play slot machines. Already at school, Lemmy began to have a passion for music, in many ways because of the girls who adored those who could play the guitar. His mother had a guitar that he carried with him to school. Lemmy did not know how to play it. However, there really was no end to the girls. Subsequently, he mastered the 6-string instrument. Admiring the work of the Beatles, in his interviews, Lemmy repeatedly called the Rolling Stones girls, while the Beatles, in his opinion, were mechanism. He especially admired the character and worldview of John Lennon. For many, there was only one person who personified heavy metal, the unforgettable Motorhead bassist and screamer Lemmy. Before that, however, Lemmy had worked with a couple of other bands. With the British invasion in the early 60s, the young Kilmister became interested in music, playing in such long-forgotten blues rock bands as the Rainmakers, Rockin' Vickers and Opal Butterfly. After the legendary American guitarist served as the guitar roadie for Jimi Hendrix himself on an early UK tour, Kilmister joined the rock band Hawkwind in 1971, where he played bass and occasionally sang. But in early 1975, Kilmister had to leave the band after he was arrested at the Canadian border for possession of illegal substances. Luckily, Lemmy wasn't the kind of person who got used to being downhearted. He immediately set about forming his next band, which was much louder, heavier and more aggressive than his previous bands. Called Motorhead, the band went through several members before settling on a classic trio: Lemmy on bass or vocals, Phil Taylor on drums and Eddie Clarke on guitar. While the band's look was classic heavy metal, their energetic music was more in keeping with the fleeting sounds of punk rock. The trio's self-titled debut was released in 1977, and featured such classic releases as Overkill, Bomber, Ace of Spades and the album No Sleep Till Hammersmith. So, over the next few years, Motorhead became one of the most famous and influential metal bands in the world. While Motorhead's commercial success has seen many peaks and troughs since their golden era of the late 70s and early 80s, and many members come and go, their fan base has remained intact. The listeners were especially impressed by Lemmy's throaty vocals, which were really unique for the rock of those years. There were many, Many women in Kilmister's life, if you believe his words, then no less than 1,000. However, serious relationships long and responsible, he did not work out with anyone. At the age of 17, he began dating Kathy, who gave birth to his son Sean, who was sent up for adoption. The musician spoke about this in the movie Lemmy, adding that he did not have the courage to tell him who his father was. Lemmy had an affair with a certain Tracy, who bore him a son, Paul. Growing up, Paul followed in his father's footsteps and became a guitarist, sometimes joining Lemmy on stage. No one will be surprised by the fact that Lemmy led a truly rebellious, rock and roll lifestyle according to rumors. Since the age of 30 he has discovered a new tradition for himself, every day to drink a bottle of Jack Daniel's True. In 2013 he had to give up this drink. Also, Lemmy was known for an addiction that did not subside for many years. Kilmister became addicted to illegal drugs in the era of Hawkwind. Because of them, he was fired from the group. As the new century dawned, Lemmy began to experience health problems. Over the years, he reduced his drinking and other habits. He developed diabetes and hypertension. In the twilight years of his life, Lemmy often used a cane. In late 2015, a few days after his 70th anniversary, Lemmy is gone. The great musician died due to prostate cancer, which he was diagnosed with just 2 days before his birthday.
Well, you know, she left me all alone, and I know